As usual, hey everybody, welcome back to your friendly gas powered bike page. I thought today what we would discuss is when to replace your motor versus repairing your engine. And here is a perfect example. I put this bike together for these people probably 4 or 5 years ago, and they have rode the mess out of it. I can't even begin to guess how many miles this person has put on this bike. I think they've been hit by a car. I know they've had it down multitudes of times. Just you name it, and this bike's been through it. Different wheels, as you can see, just keeping this bad fella going. But eventually, all the little motors wear out, and this one has finally carried its last, I guess you could say. So most people, I understand, will watch the video and be like, why don't you just put a cylinder and a piston on it and move on from there? And that is a good idea in some instances. That's what I kind of wanted to just kind of bat around today, is when is a good idea to do that, and when's a good idea just to buy another one, being they're not super massively expensive anyway, because that's what we're doing for this one. We're just going to swap the motor out. And why? Well, got to look at it. It's got a ton of miles on it. Yes, we could put a new cylinder and piston on it, but then we're running the lower half, which has still got 9 quadrillion miles on it. 9 quadrillion miles on the lower crank bearings. Same thing with the bushing for the output shaft for the clutches and the drive gear. So you rebuild the top half, and then later on you might have problems with the bottom because she's just finally getting wore out with so many miles. So it's a good idea just to put a new bullet in the old bike frame and get you another 20,000, 30,000, whatever's on this bad fella. I know that sounds like a lot, but this bike's got it. But anyway, if you're a person that only rides periodically, God forbid something happened to the cylinder. I've had people that have, just gotten into them when they bought them, gassed them up 2 or 3 times, and on that fourth time, when they went and bought gas, they forgot to put oil in the gas. And that really galls the cylinder, scorches the piston, and now your bike motor doesn't run anymore. So that, for instance, would be a good idea, just to put a piston and a cylinder in it. Buy your cylinder kit and your piston and slap the whole new top half on and fire it up and get back to riding, because that was more of a mistake than a mileage thing. So you're relatively, close to the miles on the top half as the bottom half. But if you're a person that's got a quadrillion miles on it like this bike, as you can see, it's been ridden pretty hard and put away wet and whatnot a multitude of times. A little duct tape on the CDI up there just keeping it going. But anyway, yeah, if it's got a ton of miles on it and you got to weigh your financial options, it's best just to buy the whole kit. And yes, this is an Amazon kit, Amazon or eBay, can't remember. And they work just fine. A lot of people go to websites and buy them or whatnot, but to be honest with you, they're all pretty close to the same, unless you start getting into high performance stuff from we'll say a place that, bores and strokes and hones and polishes and ports their little bike motors before they sell them, which naturally is going to be a lot more, because you're getting a lot more power equals a lot more money. But if you just want to be a rider and quit pedaling and need some transportation and would like just a motorized bike, the Amazon, eBay motors are just fine. I've used every style of motor for years, and yeah, they work just fine. What can I say? All right, other than that, I'm going to get the box open and start picking some parts out of there so I can get this bike back to rolling, and they can put some more miles on it, hopefully without all the crashing. Okay, as greasy as it was and nasty to touch, got it down to bare bones. Now the individual just wanted me to swap the motor over, and they got a messed up throttle up here where it's went down before, and I don't know if you can see it, but it's all black taped up there. So being as they bought the kit, they wanted me to put that on there and just swap out the motor, which is probably adequate, I guess. I'm personally a little more thorough. Myself, if it were my bike, I would put on the new clutch cable there. That one's got some miles on it, still in decent shape, but I'd put it on there being I had a new one and keep that for an extra in case my new one broke later in life. You could pop this dude on there to keep yourself going while you're waiting on another new one or something. I am going to replace the chain. The chain was looking quite worn, so being as we have a new chain, I'm gonna go ahead and throw that on there. But to the point at hand, I couldn't do it and function with the camera at the same time because this motor is completely blown up. It is rattling and knocking when you spin it over with the old socket ratchet on the gear drive part, because I had to turn that to get the chain off of it. And man, I had to use the 1/2-inch drive and a breaker bar to get it to turn because there's so many parts flopping around in that motor. It just clunks all over the place. And I'm sorry I couldn't share that with you, but take my word for it, that motor is pretty much a paperweight. You probably use the exhaust and the intake and maybe keep it for screws and bolts, or yeah, some bolts here and later. But other than that, that bad fella's a paperweight, a doorstop, a scrap heap. So I'm going to get the new one put on there, kind of go through it a little bit to help them out, make sure the wheels are, lubed up and whatnot. But getting back to the motor part, this one is way beyond just popping a piston in it, because all the pieces, I'm sure, are down below in the crankshaft flopping around, which creates a bunch of shavings. So to successfully do that, you would have to split the case, rinse out all the shavings with some carburetor cleaner or alcohol, something non-oil based, to get all the shavings out of there properly and dry it out. And if I were doing so, I would put a drop or two of lube on my bearings if I was actually going through all of that, and put my case back together, put my new cylinder and piston on it, lube up the cylinder a little bit as I was building it, and that way it doesn't all start dry, because these 2-cycle motors don't get any lubrication until the fuel and oil mix get to cycling through the engine and provide its lubrication. I'm not going to get into a big speech about that, but that's pretty much how it works. But if it was like I had mentioned in the beginning, a just faulty piston, like my example of the gas with no oil in it, usually these little motors will blow up within about 150 feet, and it doesn't create a lot of shavings. It just, if you're lucky, and it just messes up the cylinder and the piston where it doesn't have any compression, doesn't run anymore. Then you might be able to get away with what I've seen other people say. They've, I don't know, filled the lower case with gas or sprayed it out and put a ton of carburetor cleaner down there and shook it around and dumped it upside down and rinsed it that way. And you would probably get away with that on a really minute engine damage scenario. But the 100% correct way to do it is to completely disassemble the motor, clean all the parts, lube up what you can, put it back together, as I said before, so it doesn't run dry without oil when it first starts. Put your new parts on it and get back to riding. All right, that's enough about that. Got a little long-winded on it, but just wanted to explain before everybody attacks me and be like, well, man, you could just rinse that out and put it back together. Yeah, but we would like a little more thorough job than that. I want a little more trust. Why spend all that money on the top half and then have the problems later when the shavings you didn't get out eat up the bearings in the bottom at the crankshaft, and now my motor's junk again, and I'm back to square one, and it's all one big hassle. Just get the kit, change out the motor, and get back to riding and quit fooling with it. You're not saving that much money. And the extra bonus is, when you buy the kit, you have extra parts if you're going to just change out the engine and hypothetically say your throttle cable. Still going to have a clutch, going to have an extra chain, going to have an extra CDI, gas tank, little tidbit things that'll put you back to walking while you're waiting on the UPS truck to bring you those parts in the future, if something should happen. Just a little food for thought. All right, I'm going to quit talking. Okay, let's talk more finished bike. The moment I've been waiting for to have this bad fella put back together and see if she's going to run. I did end up changing and making the decision for him to change all the accessory accoutrement, if you will. I did change the clutch cable. I did change the throttle cable. I was going to have to anyway with the one that was broke, but look at that, no more tape holding the throttle cable in position. New cable, the new springs. Most definitely get rid of that set screw if your engine comes with one and don't use it. They always break off, and it's a tragedy for you when they do. Always use the cable lock on your trusty clutch, which this one has, so we just reused it. Replace the chain, carburetor, CDI, although I know the other one was working because I tested it, but we'll keep that as a reserve for in case one goes down. So other than that, the finished results, I don't know what brand motor. I've never used one of these. This customer picked it up himself, but we're going to find out if Pexmore is good or not. So I hope to end this video with a bicycle idling outside the door and ready to get picked up. So let's go find out. All right then, I am happy to once again report and end a video with some positivity that the old Pexmore fired right up. Went about 2 to 3 bike lengths and chugged a little bit and cleaned itself out and started running like it's supposed to. Although when your bike is brand new, it's going to be chuggy a little bit. So all the piston rings, seat, and all the parts meet each other. So have a little patience when you're building your own bike. But other than that, this one's ready to go for another, hopefully 30,000 miles. As always, thanks for watching. I hope this video helped somebody out. Maybe you've seen something on this bike that helped you fix your bike. A little food for thought, whatnot. Like and subscribe, I appreciate it. And I will see you with the next motorized bicycle problem.